Representatives of the Car and Truck Body and Assembly Divisions group met recently in Boston to report on the people programs going on in their divisions. This motion picture is a 30-minute condensation of highlights from the full day's meeting. Its purpose is to share with all General Motors managers some of the concepts which were discussed, with hope that they may have application in your own organizations. Speaking to you first is General Motors Executive Vice President Richard L. Terrell.
I've gone back in General Motors and tried to study the successful managers in GM and to find out if there was anything in common among these managers who were successful. And the one thing I've been able to find is an awareness and a sensitivity to people. I think the successful managers in General Motors have always been people-oriented. The main people you're going to hear from, of course, are the presenters in Boston, the people who are actually taking part in the program. I call them the practitioners, the people who really know.
When I first heard about the idea of getting first-line supervisor and hourly workers involved in making their own work decisions, well, I listened politely, but quite honestly, I had a lot of reservations. As it turned out, I was given the first assignment to put this idea into action in our plant. It was on a new press line. I went ahead and set up the operation to get people more involved, but it didn't work. One reason it didn't work was because I was not totally committed to the idea. We took another look to evaluate what was actually happening on the line and to set up a workable operation that really did invite the participation and input of all the people working on the line. The result is that I witnessed some things happen that I wouldn't have believed. For example, the people on the line developed schedules we felt were too optimistic, but they attained them. Our original planning called for producing 3 parts on this line, but they are not only in the process of incorporating a 4th part, they've organized an effective preventive maintenance program too. During production, a panic situation occurred on an adjacent line. My people reacted to the situation by using one of the presses in their line for the additional part, and they made the schedule on both parts over a 5-day period. The day these people established a new hourly production figure for their type of operation, they roared so loud you could hear them throughout the plant. Then they painted a sign to hang on the lead-off press, not to blow their own horns, but as a figure to beat. And it's important to note that we have not received a single grievance of any consequence on this line. Building on the success of our involvement program, we decided to arrange some tours to outside plants so our people could observe operations similar to ours and perhaps get some additional ideas for improvement. How did the activity go over? Well, let me share just 3 reactions with you. One hourly man who had over 30 years service with Buick commented that this was the first time anyone there had shown any concern about his opinions, and it was the first time he had had an opportunity to visit another manufacturing plant. A skilled trades committeeman spent at least 20 minutes relating to me how we could apply to our operation some of the things he had seen to increase production and efficiency. A second shift foreman said, and I quote, "We had people from all parts of the plant on this trip, including hourly employees, management, and even a committeeman. These are people who are often opposed to each other and to each other's ideas. But here they were, looking at equipment and discussing how we could all work together and improve our output. With a relationship like this, between all the groups at the plant, and everyone working together for the same goal, it would be impossible for us not to meet any objective we set." End of quote. We certainly aren't home yet on this project, but my experience with it has made me realize that decisions and solutions to problems can be made at the first-line supervisor and hourly level. And that's quite a change in thinking for a manager who used to believe that he had to be involved in every decision.
We wanted to fully utilize the talents of our management people and place the decision-making at the first-line supervision level whenever possible. Our first organized attempt to accomplish this goal was set up in the front-end section of our Tonawanda Forge plant. Here, 20% of the plant's workforce, or about 225 people, produced 27 different forgings on 11 press lines. 9 foremen from both shifts, including operating and service departments, in the front end were individually briefed on the idea of floor supervision, team management, and asked to participate on a voluntary basis. Response was 100%. Decision-making for the area was theirs, with only two basic guidelines. One, any decision made must not be detrimental to other forge operations. Two, they were to operate under the same general rules that superintendents and department heads follow in making their decisions. Meetings are held twice weekly between shifts so that representatives from both shifts can thoroughly discuss items in their assigned areas. Minutes of the meetings are issued and form an important means of feedback and follow-up that also keeps higher management informed. Upon request of the front-end team, members of the plant manager's staff attend some of the meetings to explain departmental functions, procedures, finances, and controls. A logbook covering machine status, scheduled die changes, and other general production needs serves as an official flow of information between shifts. Not only are team members enthusiastic about the program and feel it has increased their job satisfaction, but efficiency has increased almost 7% in the front end. Monthly scrap costs were reduced 30%. More careful scheduling has allowed better preventive maintenance and improved machine operations. This is not a one-time success story. The value of the foreman team approach to management is proving itself in another area of the plant. With the success of the front-end team, we expanded this concept to a brake pedal job, which had been transferred to the forge plant. Not only was this the first time a forge plant was involved in machining and assembly, but the department was manned by newly hired hourly employees, and most of the supervisors were also newly appointed. Most of the same procedures developed in the front-end team were applied to a 13-man pedal team. However, since many of the foremen were relatively new and inexperienced, 2 general foremen were assigned as team leaders, with 11 foremen. GMI conducted a 3-month training program to improve the team's problem-solving skills. Once more, the results were impressive. Monthly scrap costs were reduced almost 50%. Overtime and premium shipments were virtually eliminated. And again, there was improvement in the maintenance of operating equipment through careful scheduling and close departmental cooperation. Both the front end and the pedal areas have shown improvement in interdepartmental communications and understanding, not only of their own department's goals, but also those of the total plant. Future plans are to involve the hourly employees in the same type of decision-making team concept which has worked so well with first-line supervision.
We wanted to expand and enrich our program to develop well-trained people who not only would function well as foremen, but also had potential for advancement into higher levels of management. At the same time, we were looking for more penetrating and precise methods in selecting supervisor candidates. As a result, we developed a special selection and training system in cooperation with Oakland Community College. This involves a 2-year combination in-plant, in-school training program for hourly and salary employees who desire to be foreman candidates. We enrolled 42 such candidates in the beginning class and have not lost a single candidate. We have also embarked on a supplementary program, an industrial management program for college graduates. In today's environment, there is extreme difficulty in motivating engineering graduates to accept a foreman's job. Because of this, we decided to look for foreman candidates from other than traditional sources. We are considering, among others, some candidates from colleges that, to our knowledge, are not usually intensely recruited by GM. We wanted candidates who had to work their way through college, not technically trained people, but selected candidates whose interest is oriented toward working with people and whose training might be as teachers, salesmen, or social workers. These graduates will be in training for 12 months. To start with, they will have a week of orientation to Pontiac Motor Division and the community. During the year, 70% of their time will involve on-the-job experience. Candidates also will spend 30% of their time in classroom training, including classes at General Motors Institute, Oakland Community College, and Pontiac Motor Division. Successful completion of this program will qualify the candidates for prime consideration as first-line supervisors. At Pontiac, as with most of GM's manufacturing organizations, the majority of foremen come from the ranks. But we also need an infusion of new people to balance our management group.
When we undertook the Vega project, a new concept in production to us, we devoted extensive time to pre-startup training. We had 4 training areas set up in the plant, and all were equipped with cars in various build stages, assembly equipment, plant layouts, and so forth. Employees were scheduled to receive instruction in the specific operation to which they would be assigned when production began. Classroom instruction was carried out for hourly employees by the foreman of each section. Suggestions from hourly personnel were considered and implemented whenever possible. Our initial plans called for the first car to reach the roll test at 9 a.m. on a specific day. We met this objective. We reached acceleration to 40 jobs per hour after 20 days, and in about a month, our quality index had reached 127. In 2 months, it reached 130. What impressed us most of all was the carryover benefits of our basic pre-startup training. Recently, when we began a second shift operation, in itself a major change in the middle of a model year, we were able to reach full production on both shifts with an 8-day training and acceleration period for the majority of employees. Of course, all key operators were trained in advance of this period. During this acceleration period, our quality index was maintained at a 127 level. We want our people at all levels to participate in planning, to determine work methods, to be informed, and to be involved in the day-to-day operations.
At Cadillac, we believe that the dealership is an extension of the factory and that benefits can be gained from the application of people involvement concepts in all areas of our business. In this belief, several months ago we started a dealer visitation activity involving production foremen. We wanted them to fully realize the effect of quality on dealership operations. In this activity, production foremen spend a day in a Cadillac dealer's service department, noting specific customer problems and the details of new car preparation. Each foreman then makes a report on his observations. About 50 foremen representing all production operations have taken part so far. I'd like to read to you just a couple of comments from their reports. Seeing the results of one's efforts in conjunction with the entire manufacturing process creates a sense of appreciation for the problems of others, especially customers. And here's another. I believe after visiting the dealership, the message is quite clear. The quality must be built into the car right here in the factory. We can then rightfully depend on our dealers to maintain our product. Now turning to in-plant people involvement activities, we have a variety of ongoing programs. All of our manufacturing superintendents are engaged in organized approaches to people involvement, and each has developed his own activities tailored to his own operation. In our painting operations, we organized a special program called Production Improvement Effort. This activity was designed as a continuous long-range effort to introduce planned change, to improve quality, safety, and working conditions, and to reduce costs. The program called for an extensive involvement of all levels of supervision and included hourly employees. Scheduled and unscheduled meetings were held to define and solve recognized problems. Now, to date, many tangible benefits have been realized. For example, chassis paint warranty dropped from $1.62 a car to 99 cents. Similar improvements occurred in quality, with paint discrepancies and demerits dropping more than 50%, and corresponding reductions in operating costs. We are convinced that people want to become more involved, and when they do, it's a plus for everyone.
When I was manager of the Fisher Body Hamilton plant, One of our major problems was communications with our total workforce of about 3,000 people. We used a variety of approaches to open our lines of communications, but one approach was especially helpful. It's an area of communications a lot of us might overlook, and that is making the operating plan information available to the Union Shop Committee. This communication program was earnestly undertaken to explain to the Union Shop Committee how a new tool program would be dealt with. We showed them manpower, hours scheduled, tryout dates, and other information concerned with the specific operation. Getting the overall picture prepared the committeemen for questions that they might receive on such things as when people would return to work and why certain tryout jobs had to be done at other Fisher Body plants. In effect, the plant management and the Union Shop Committee were working as a team. As a result, our normal problems and grievances during this tool and die construction program smoothed out to an amazing degree. Seeing the impact of this approach of communications and involvement, we decided to set up a regular program of communications with our Union Shop Committee. This involved having our department managers going to shop committee meetings on a bi-weekly basis to provide the committee with background information on definite plant operations and to bring them up to date on current in-plant activities. At the same time, we were involving our production and service people in discussions on subjects such as setting production standards, making plant rearrangements without slowdowns, and achieving manpower savings. In addition, we asked for their suggestions and ideas. This two-pronged approach to getting our plant people involved paid off in very tangible results. Shown here are 3.5 years, starting with January 1970, of the open grievance load per month. The 1970 national strike and model change periods indicates the ups and downs. We chose to use August 1972 as the start of our improvement period. Each black star represents a meeting held with the Union Shop Committee. 16 meetings were held during a period of 6 months. As you can see, our overall open grievance load was substantially reduced. Through communications and involvement, everybody at Fisher Hamilton is acquiring a better understanding of each other's problems and concerns.
At one of our distribution centers, what we needed was immediate foreman employee involvement. We had a series of meetings with floor supervision in which we got their vote of confidence to try a whole new approach with the hourly employees. Every foreman would spend part of his day making personal contacts with each hourly rate employee under his supervision, just batting the breeze about sports, family, and so on. After several weeks, when we saw definite evidence of better relationships being built between the employees and supervision, these daily conversations centered more around work concerns, such things as praise for good performance, job instruction on proper methods, absenteeism, lack of productivity. We also adopted a policy which emphasized repeated counseling before assessment of discipline. In addition, group discussions were held within departments where we talked about general business matters with both employees and the bargaining committee. The chairman of the shop committee was invited to attend a meeting conducted with our dealers to get an insight of what our customers think of our service and problems concerning our workmanship. A willingness to cooperate in bargaining grievances was established. And here's the real test. Our open grievance load was reduced from well over 300 to less than 50. Grievances protesting discipline dropped from a monthly high of 20 to a low of 1. Average absenteeism dropped from 4.4% to 3.4%. General productivity increased, and there was less resistance to change than previously experienced.
To achieve better management communication, we have organized leadership development seminars at Oldsmobile to keep top-level managers informed on successful people programs, as well as to provide recognition for the individuals who are generating the programs. A key element in our format are reports by superintendents who describe programs in which they are personally involved and the results that they are getting. All of these meetings are recorded on videotape so we can review our discussions with other supervisory groups, further expanding management communication. Special attention has been directed toward increasing teamwork between foremen and hourly employees and pushing decision-making down to the people who are closest to the problems. We've defined some very practical guidelines in gaining hourly employee and foreman involvement. First, both employees and foremen should volunteer for an activity. Second, the activity should center around a problem that is real to the foreman as well as the people he supervises. Third, group meetings should be foreman-led, which requires training the foreman to handle meetings, to listen, and to direct the problem-solving process within the group. And fourth, there must be a willingness to make information available to the group, quite often information that has not been normally available to them. The action plan belongs to the group, and they make it work. Using surveys and other traditional measurements of the business team approach in our differential plant, we found that after some 8 months of operation, there were savings or cost avoidance of $125,000 has accrued on some 64 projects that the team has worked on. And many of the projects also resulted in improvements in quality, downtime, and scheduling. Added to this were better communications and information flow, improvement in management coordination and support, more goal emphasis, great improvement in coordination with service groups, more trust, and more improvement in general job satisfaction. The business team approach has worked so well, we plan to increase hourly involvement and apply it in other areas.
In the production of our new motorhome, we have a unique opportunity to introduce some new ideas and methods involving people. Most of our activities in this area are achieving excellent results. But I'd like to describe our experience with one project that was not as successful as we had anticipated. Hearing about what happened and why it happened might be helpful in developing other people-oriented programs. The activity was the application of the team build concept to motorhome production. This new product provided good opportunity for trying a team-building assembly technique. We were starting with a clean slate, and production rate of 4 per hour was low enough to permit the introduction of something drastically different. Although the motorhome is quite complex, there are only 2 wheelbases and relatively few production variations. And we felt our workers could readily identify with this new recreation vehicle, and the team method of assembly would be appealing to them. Finally, the size of the plant operation and its layout were conducive to such a plan. Now, we started with a nucleus of 30 hand-picked hourly employees. It was intended that this group would build the pilot vehicles and later be team leaders and trainers for the full production teams. The pilot models were built, and then another 150 employees were selected to begin production acceleration at levels of 1 to 2 jobs per hour. As acceleration continued, we encountered some serious obstacles, particularly with respect to meeting production efficiency and quality standards. We soon found that we had created work cycles that were too long for many employees to learn. And we found the problems of starting a new and complex product were becoming mixed with the problems of working out this new concept, and we were unable to sort the culprits accurately. Initially, employee reaction to the team-building approach was very favorable, but as our startup problems developed, the team approach became less effective, and the employees themselves recognized the need for significant changes. One of the interesting changes that took place occurred when the team members began to divide up the job cycles. To a large degree, the team members began to return to the more traditional assembly format, with each worker performing fewer different jobs. As a result, it was necessary for us to reduce the use of the team build concept. When production has been running smoothly for several months, we will reevaluate the possibility of trying the team build concept in strategic areas. But we will not again try to introduce an all-new product and a new assembly approach at the same time. I wanted to relate our experience in a most candid way, mainly to point out that because a concept doesn't work out just right the first time, it shouldn't necessarily be abandoned. Often it just needs reanalysis and a rededication of effort. Now, we aren't discouraged at all about this program, and we at GMC remain convinced of the possibility that both greater efficiency of operation and improved employee utilization and attitudes can result from the team-building concept.
Working under ideal conditions, we conducted a most successful experiment in offline team assembly at the Assembly Research Center in Flint. It involved 5 assemblers who would not only complete trim and chassis assembly of cutaway G-van trucks, but also perform as many of the traditional service functions as they could handle. Our team included 4 men and 1 woman, ages 22 to 37, with plant experience ranging from 2 to 10 years, and education from 4th grade to 1 year of college. We provided an initial day and a half of team-building sessions which proved invaluable. Then, a goal of 1.6 hours per truck was proposed, which, including service functions, would be bettering traditional conveyorized build. The team observed the first disassembly of the truck by pilot line personnel. They made notes on the sequence of operations and separated a set of operation description sheets into areas of responsibility. After each assembly, these operations were revised for maximum comfort and efficiency, always keeping in mind the principle that no one is finished until everyone is finished. The team solved its own problems, such as associating the right fasteners with the right parts. We had a meeting the last half hour of every day where we discussed team ideas, and the group agreed whether to implement them. A chart kept in the conference room gave instant recognition for an idea with the suggestor's name and whether the idea was in effect, creating constructive competition among team members. First assembly to last was accomplished solely by the team, and when the engine cranked and the first truck was backed out of the stall, the team cheered. The first assembly took 13.5 hours, the second 4.5, the 5th 2, the 10th took 1.6 hours, our goal, and the 11th took only 1.3 hours. During a review by the team of a videotape made of this 11th assembly, the team recognized and discussed many improvements which they could make to further shorten time. Prior to 12th assembly, each of the 5 operators rotated to a completely new operation. Only 4 hours were spent in training. Assembly 12 with the rotated team took 3 hours, and Assembly 13 1.7 hours, or practically our initial goal. On Assembly 14, we decided to take 1 member off the team. The remaining 4 team members completed assembly in 1.8 hours. Working in close proximity, as they had been doing, and helping each other as required, the operators already knew most of what the others were doing. This greatly minimized training requirements. The initial quality of the job was very high. Most important to this was the self-discipline imposed on each operator in knowing that it was his responsibility to fix a problem that he created. He couldn't blame an earlier operator on the line. He couldn't blame the tool because he had picked it out. He couldn't blame the sequence or the method since he had helped to develop it. Many of the potential benefits that might be developed through application of offline team assembly are reflected in an attitude survey given to the team at the beginning and end of the experiment, which shows unusual progress in developing positive work attitudes. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that this was a laboratory experiment. The working environment at assembly research was ideal. Under high-volume production conditions, offline team assembly may not be practical, or it may not be the choice of all people. There are some in-between methods that may be more practical and acceptable. But we think there's great potential in offline team assembly application, and the we includes the hourly workers that participated in this early tryout.
Well, I think you've seen what I call a technical report as part of it. I think you've seen a good summary of what's been going on in these 10 divisions. You have a fair idea of their successes and problems, and I would like to feel that the film will serve as a good thought starter and to generate interest on the part of other people to develop better programs. Obviously, you can't fool people. If you really want to be effective in this field, you have to sincerely be interested in people's desires and wants, their problems, and you have to find ways to work with them. And I think the most important ingredient in this program is to develop a sincere interest in people. The best way I know in any business to be successful is to get all of your people interested in your goals. And if they all work with you, your success is ensured.